All right, so joining us today on the podcast is Angela Lee, Senior Director of Support at Unbounce. Really excited to have you on today. Just wanted to kick things off today with a little bit of a view into your role and what you're doing over there on the support side at Unbounce and what the product looks on your end before we dive into the rest of the question.
For sure. So I'm very fortunate to lead a very global team. Super smart people, very empathetic. They definitely tackle the tough questions, the solve for the weird bugs, and sometimes occasionally remind customers to clear their cache, always very nicely, of course. I would describe my role in support as primarily to clear roadblock blocks for them, maybe create some structure, and basically get out of their way. Let the smart people really shine and do what they do exceptionally well. And I just really just try to make sure that they have what they need to help keep our customers happy. At Unbounce here, what we do is we're known for being a leading landing page platform that helps our marketers quickly build, test, optimize their landing pages. So pretty user-friendly, no developers, no designers required, no blood sacrifices needed in any way. And then most recently last year, we joined forces with Insightly. So that basically overnight allowed for us to bring in an all-in-one CRM solution and marketing automation into our mix. So I describe it as like a one-stop shop for our marketers, like a mullet. It's the big brains in the front, a lot of brawn in the back. So party in the front, business in the back. And so we have this like conversion focused sort of front end with the CRM muscle in the back end.
Yeah, that's great. On the product side, is you mentioned for marketers, is it built solely for marketers or is other teams supported as well, like on the sales side or?
For the landing page builder, primarily for marketers, yeah, I would say our fit for right now, I'd say would be primarily our small to mid market. So that could be anything like a solopreneur, somebody who's doesn't have a lot of marketing experience, but is looking to us for the solutions and for the help and a lot of guidance along the way. But we also work with larger agencies as well, who are also doing the same sort of thing for multiple customers. And so they're really what I would describe as like our power users.
Awesome. And did you know that you always wanted to be in the customer experience and support space, or was that something that you grew into over the years?
Probably like a lot of most of us in this field, I would say a lot of us probably got into this a little organically through customer facing roles, whether that was like in the service industry or something along that line. You just innately enjoy helping people and you get a lot of gratification out of that. So for me, that's where my journey started. I was just very fortunate to be a part of companies that were scaling and growing very quickly, learned a lot in a very short period of time. And since then, I would say I've basically been in support or customer experience adjacent roles, primarily in support or customer success for quite a number of years. And it's the place that I love to be. It's where I feel like I actually do my best work. I've tried some other areas, not bad work, but better work, certainly in customer support or customer experience.
Yeah, and I know that support and customer success, there's ways that they go hand in hand, but they're also inherently different. Would you say you have like more of a gravitational pull towards one or the other, or do you like them equally?
I like them equally. I don't pick favorites. I'll even include onboarding in there as well and TAMS too. All of that, I think all those touch points across the customer journey are areas that I've always been really interested in. I enjoy understanding a customer's journey, no matter where they are in terms of working with us and when they need their help. I would describe support as working very closely with customer success when needed, but also along other teams as well as customers are joining our business and using our products. I think support is not very or is very across the entire customer journey. We're basically here whenever they need us. In case they can't reach out to their CSM in that moment, they can reach out to us. We'll certainly do the best that we can. So I think of support as maybe more of an extension of the other teams when they need us. But at the end of the day, we're here for our customers any day, anytime they need us.
Just curious because it's different from company to company that I talk to here on the podcast. Do you guys have remote and like distributed teams, or do you guys have a centrally located headquarters somewhere?
We do. We have a global team across North America, and also we have some folks in Germany. So we are a distributed team working primarily, most of our team, I would say, is either in Canada or the United States.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. So with the remote teams, obviously you're helping to support those teams across time zones. How do you design your training processes to scale across different learning styles, maybe
Yeah.
different personalities or locations?
For sure. Good question. I would say I perceive that a lot if you're building a great knowledge base for your customers. You're really thinking about your users in mind and thinking about different mediums and different ways that people learn. So I would probably say that our approach to designing an opportunity for our people to learn and grow internally is very similar to our approach of how we would build out and design a really good help center to help our customers be enabled when they need to be self-sufficient and want to self-learn. We take the same approach with our team when we're looking to bring them on board as new hires. We do use a couple of internal tools that I would say are primarily the tools where we would have a lot of our documentation materials that hopefully remain evergreen and we can update as needed. Support changes quite a bit operationally. So trying to keep up with maintaining that documentation for our team members, I would say, is probably the biggest challenge in staying in front of onboarding successfully for new hires. But also thinking about, again, how it's designed. How do you make that effortless for your team to find that information quickly? And how do you use different mediums to help them learn and understand and apply? So part of it is always theoretical. That part is primarily the documentation part, maybe some videos, tutorial walkthroughs, also very hands-on learning and shadowing along the way, and then being very intentional about the stages as they are earlier onboarded with us. How are they taking the context of what they've learned and being able to apply that in their role, and then do a check and balance and continue moving on before you move too quickly and they're terrified.
Yeah, and how would you say that it's, I guess, after the training and onboarding is finished up? I know there's ongoing learning, but has there been across the time zones, like working with employees out of other countries, has there been any like other knowledge gaps outside of those training and onboarding scenarios where it's been tough to fill? Or I know that you mentioned you guys use different tools or different mediums to train employees, but has there been any challenges with that outside of standard like training or onboarding environment?
Fortunately, not yet, knock on wood. I think, the benefit of using tools where you have some documentation and resources that are built out, done well. I think part of what is self-led through their learning, again, the benefit of being remote is that they have those tools and those resources, even if somebody isn't immediately available or across the time zone to share with them at the same time where they're scheduled, that they still have an opportunity to do some of the self-led learning. And then we're looking at times where there's overlap where we can have them cross train or shadow or mentor or be coached by other individuals when there is some overlap in scheduling. So we haven't crossed that path yet, because we've been fortunate enough to have folks that are scheduled even remotely across the borders and across the sea, where we've been able to still be able to blend both the sort of self-led component and also the sort of in-person remote environment through shadowing and training and setting up meetings and coffee connects and stuff like that. We're still able to do that.
That's great. And just moving on here to another topic that I was hoping to cover about building great knowledge base documentation. Curious if you have any approach to maybe any teams out there who are looking to build a strong foundation for building out a knowledge base, especially where right now AI products are using knowledge bases and really good data to be able to kind of power them. Curious what your approach when building those out would be.
First approach, plan and design and be an architect for that. I think part of that is hopefully getting as much right as you can out of the get-go before you start pushing that forward to your customers as customer facing. Knowledge base, I would say, also is like an evergreen space for ensuring that your customers have the information that they need quickly and it's accurate and up to date. So I think the approach to building out a great knowledge base for your customers, part of it is, I think, the design. Can you create an effortless experience for them to be able to quickly find what they're looking for? If you've got some automation behind that, say as like a chatbot or through AI as well, I think it becomes even that much more critical about maintaining your knowledge base and that the information reflects what your processes look like today, not only the product information about how customers can self-serve and be able to find what they need, find the tutorials. Simple language is always, I think, probably one of your North Stars in building a great content, not using the verbiage that most customers might not be used to. So maybe you're using that internally within your teams, but maybe customer facing, it needs to be a lot more simple, easy, mediums as well. So again, a lot like internal enablement of onboarding your new hires. It's almost the same thing of onboarding your new customers as well. So how do you make that frictionless? Yes.
And one other question, just like another layer to that. I know that there's a couple different mediums that people use, especially the leaders that come on here, and they'll have different styles of how they're building those knowledge bases out. A lot of them right now seem to be text based. And I know that that is sufficient for building them out, especially with AI. But how important is it to add other mediums like maybe GIFs or videos into that documentation as well? Is that something that you guys are looking to do or already do, or I'm just curious what your approach is?
We definitely do. I'd say we have actually beta tested in the past different ways of, I think, depending on the complexity of the type of situation that the customer issue the customer is looking for, I think different approaches or different ways for your content to be available in your help center, I think is part of establishing a good strategy. Where does it make sense to have record a loom or something like that of troubleshooting and helping a customer go through those steps? Where does recording those videos make the most sense for those type of issues versus maybe step-by-step approach with very simple, quick bullet point content instructions that they can follow? So we've definitely tried different ways or different mediums and different layouts, different structures. And I think on the back end, what our customers don't see is we're looking at the data behind the scenes about how your knowledge base is performing. Is it actually deflecting or deflecting your volume into customer support? I think a good knowledge base primarily probably does deflect a lot of the volume and allows customers to self-serve when they want to. But you can also look at other things that I think are also helpful to understand your operations, such as what are customers looking for? What are the keywords? How do you optimize your help center? Like SEO and search engines, you're trying to optimize for the right keywords, looking at what customers are typing in searching for to find their articles. You could be implementing some sort of a customer effort score survey on your help center articles as well so that they can rate you and let you know if that article was helpful. I think all of those insights I think are gold for us in a customer support and customer experience team. You can understand your customers' behavior and how they're, again, where they're searching, what they're searching for, rating your articles where they were not helpful, and then testing other ways in which you can either optimize that content or even be called out sometimes when you overlook and forgot about an article that hasn't been updated and you've changed something in the company and you're like, we forgot about that, sent you down the wrong path, and we're sorry about that.
For sure. And I guess what role would you say that cross-functional collaboration plays in delivering a great escalation path? And how do you make sure on your side that it's not just like a game of hot potato, but it's actually like a genuine handoff or great escalation process from start to finish?
For sure. I think we tend to look at that from the customer's perspective, again, keeping them in mind. And primarily, we focus on customer effort as one of the ways I think that is important to make sure that customers getting the help where they need and when they need to whoever they reach out to. So I do think that on the customer support side of things, we take a lot of autonomy and ownership when a customer does reach out. Even if that means internally we do need to escalate or reach out to other teams, cross collaboration to try and solve this problem. I think ownership of helping that customer and resolving it, if we can in support, we certainly will do that. There are certainly times where we do need to escalate or transfer that issue over to another team to help or better facilitate that conversation with the customer. But for the most part, we'll try to understand that customer situation, figure out, do we have all the knowledge that we need in order to help this customer? If we don't, who are our partners within the company that can help us solve for this customer, do all that behind the scenes, and then touch base back with the customer and
Yeah.
hopefully close the loop. Again, keeping their effort in mind, I think, is probably the most important thing that we can try and do.
For sure. What would you say, and you don't have to answer this as in the weeds about exactly what your processes are. I don't want you to like have to share too much information there, but what are some of the things that you think leaders should be looking for in terms of to trigger an escalation versus just keeping it in the hands of one segment? I guess moving it from an L2 to an L3 team or somebody else in the organization. What triggers that for you, or what should they be looking for?
Another loaded question. I would say our support infrastructure, our structure today, I guess we're technically a tier one and tier two support, although I would probably say we essentially have a tier zero and maybe a tier zero to tier three in support, which is, I kind of view tier zero as like our self-serve knowledge base. And then maybe the next layer is probably our chatbots that help resolve for our customers. And then we move into that human component of where I think the human touch with our team moves from a service support level. For the most part, I would say our team in our human support tier one is able to solve the majority of those issues for our customers. There's not a lot of escalations that they do need to do. We do have a technical support team as well. So they're really the folks who are working very closely with our engineering team. And they are getting some of those escalations from our tier one, where if our team is trying to troubleshoot or trying to replicate some of those bugs or try to follow what the customer is experiencing and really can't solve on that technical level themselves, they will internally escalate. So we try to keep that process pretty clean and simple, low effort internal component to being able to escalate from our tier one to our tier two. And it's pretty quick. And then that gets moved over to our tier two team. They take it and continue to move on with it. For the most other part, when it comes to escalations, we really do try to keep most of it within our support team and work internally across or cross-functionally across our other teams to, again, for that, without having to further escalate that or create more further delays for the customer by pushing that ticket or issue to somebody else. When I would say maybe there requires some further escalation where it could be maybe a higher risk. You would look at perhaps like a customer segmentation. I think your VIP customers as well, especially if they're experiencing reoccurring issues or something that is, this would apply to all customers, but almost like a priority matrix where you are looking at the severity and the criticalness of the issue, I would say is another component of where things might need to be escalated a lot faster and raising some more alarm bells across the organization if it's something like a site outage, something of that sort, where it's affecting more than one user, multiple users, all users, or somebody who is experiencing a lot of friction or a lot of issues that just seem to still be open for them, and it's really impacting their ability to do their job.
Yeah, I appreciate that insight. I feel like that kind of was, I didn't even realize it was a loaded question, as you mentioned, just because there's a lot of variables there. But I think definitely a great insight from you. So I appreciate it. Just wanted to flip gears here one last time to one more question. I know we're almost at time here, but it's a little bit of a lighter question and more so your opinion. What do you think a skill right now in 2025 is something that CX leaders need to develop, but probably aren't focused on yet? Maybe just because they're not thinking about it or something they're putting off, but definitely something that needs to be focused on.
I gotta give it to all the other leaders. I think we're all thinking about all the right things in terms of skills. I want to give everyone credit there. I think we're thinking about all the right things, or the things that we should be thinking of and tapping into it. I think part of it is just being able to do and enable. And I think enablement, I think, is always, for me, probably the one area that probably needs the one untapped skill where I feel like as leaders, we can continually try to improve upon. And that for me as a leader is, how can I best enable my team to do their best work? And for me, that's a soft skill in a lot of ways. And that can show up very differently for everybody on my team. So, really, just trying to understand the needs for my team looks different for every single person on the team, what's most meaningful to them. So I think, again, my role is to think about how can I best enable them so that I'm always feeling like I could always do a lot better. So maybe EQ as well. Let's throw that in there.
I think that's great. So I guess leaning less or not necessarily leaning less on planning and strategy, but just focusing a little bit more, leaning into the enablement and execution.
Sorry, might have to pause here for a second. Sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, no problem. I was just going to say, so I guess not necessarily leaning less on planning and strategy, but just to summarize, you mentioned leaning a little bit more into execution and enablement. Yeah, can you hear me now? Okay. I was just going to say, so I guess just to summarize what you were saying, not necessarily leaning less on the planning or the strategy side of things, but just leaning a bit more into execution and enablement on teams. I think that's great. Awesome. I really appreciated our conversation today. I appreciate you coming on, and it was great talking to you. Super excited to get this episode out to everybody and have our audience hear it. And hopefully, we'll talk again soon.
Great. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Angela.
Bye.